And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll make it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Hi everyone, it's Father Mark Davis from St. Patrick's of Heatherdowns, wishing you a very happy first week of Lent. You know, the readings for this first weekend of Lent reminded me of that classic song from Frank Sinatra. We all know how many people that song has touched over the years. Many families in which I have prepared someone's funeral would say, wow, that song really represents our dad, our mom. They really definitely did things their way. And a lot of people are proud of it, aren't they? That they didn't compromise, that they did what they thought they were true to, right? It was something that they really felt good about, that they did things my way or their way. We often have that phrase, it's my way or the highway. In contrast, for the first Sunday of Lent in this cycle B, the 25th Psalm talks over and over again about following God's ways and God's way and God's paths. It literally says, Lord, teach me your ways, O Lord. Reveal to me your path. And that there's something in our tradition that's really important about following God's way and not our way. Because we know that the devil is the father of lies, and what feels right to us doesn't always really get us what we want. There's an old hymn that goes, God's way is the best way, though I may not see why sorrows and trials oft gather round me. God's way is the best way. My path he has planned. I'll trust him always by holding his hand. Theologian Peter Kreeft in Food of the Soul says that that's the song about following God's way that we'll all be singing into heaven. And those going to hell will be singing my way. Now, I of course, am thinking about the Australian band, AC/DC, about singing A Highway to Hell on the way to hell. But, you know, they are a band from down under, you know. But there is this contrast, right, of doing things God's way or my way. And I think about wanting to do things my way is in our DNA as mammals, of human beings. It reminds me of Darwin's, principle of the survival instinct. Now, how this comes together is Jesus. So Jesus is fully human and fully divine. He gets overwhelmed with the power of the Holy Spirit as baptism, and all of his divinity is actualized. It's coursing through his veins. But before going out to preach and to heal, he needs to go into the desert. He needs to get away from people and helping them. He needs to get away from his job, from his family, his relationships. He needs to go out and even abstain from drinking or eating or any distraction so he can really get clarity of what's really going on. In one of the Gospels, it talks about the devil appearing to make him have temptations. And it could have been a human person as the devil tempting him, but it also might have been just him grappling with what's he to do. So one of the temptations is to turn stones to bread. I think what we would say is to give people whatever they wanted. That was a temptation. He had the power. And what would it be like? People would love him. Oh, bingo, you're taller. Oh, you just lost weight. Oh, yes, you got a job. Now you have money. Now you don't have leprosy. Oh, now your 108-year-old grandmother came back to life. Just whatever people wanted, whether it was what's good for them or not. And then when he thought of that and grappled with that, he said, no, that's not God's way. Man does not live on bread alone. but every word that comes from the mouth of God. That my Father's way, the spiritual way, is something different. And then he came up with that temptation of what, heck, if I climbed up to the top of the temple on a busy Sabbath day with all the Pharisees and all the leaders and all the people there, and I jumped, and angels came and saved me, they'd all have to believe. They'd be scared to death. I'd prove to them who I am. But then he realized that's not God's way either. If people don't have eyes to see, ears to hear, and an open heart to see God, they'll never get it, and they'll just manipulate it or try to condemn it. So this, in the desert time, seems to me that Jesus himself was grappling and struggling and getting clarity about the balance between his humanity and his divinity, and realizing that even as fully human being, that he needs to follow God's way. And that's why he was able to say on the night before he died, Father, are you sure I have to do this? But I trust your will, not mine, be done, because I know your will, your way, will work in the end, even though I think this is crazy, and I can't believe I have to go through this. So because of the resurrection and the ascension, when the early church started to bring believers in and converts, they would have a 3-year process, and now that turned into our RCIA or OCIA. And then these 40 days right before the Easter Vigil, people planning to be and preparing to be baptized would go through an intense period, of self-denial, of fasting, of almsgiving and prayer. And that became Lent. So, a good way to look at Lent for the rest of the time is trying to be able for us to be able to be more acclimated to God's way in our life and saying more and more no to our way. So I invite you all to review what you're doing for Lent. How are you praying more? How are you giving yourself to others more? How are you saying no to yourself? So that as we go on and get ready for Easter in these 40 days, that when it comes then, we can really say, I am ready to do everything I can to follow God's way. And I know that means that sometimes I have to say no to my way. God bless you, and happy Lent.